Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Sam, and for the last 10 years, I thought I had a solid marriage. I work as a trucker, one of those guys you see driving big rigs across the country, hauling everything from food to furniture. It's not an easy job, but it pays the bills, and for a long time, I believed I was doing it for the right reasons. My wife, Tiffany, and I built a life together. We had an understanding, a partnership, or at least that's what I thought. I loved her truly, and I believed she loved me too. From the start, we agreed that kids weren't in the picture for us. It wasn't something either of us wanted, and we were fine with that. We had our own rhythm, our own way of doing things. I worked long hours, and she held down the fort at home. That was our arrangement. I won't lie, trucking is tough. You're always on the move, dealing with long nights, unpredictable schedules, and barely enough time to catch your breath before the next job. Sometimes, I'd planned to be home for the weekend, but a last-minute delivery would come up, pushing me back another day or two. That's just the way it was. But no matter how exhausting the job got, I always made sure to come home whenever I could. Because to me, marriage wasn't just about making money and paying bills. It was about being there, being present. No matter how tired I was, I wanted to be home with Tiffany. That's what I believed a marriage was supposed to be. And for a long time, I thought we were on the same page. Turns out, I was wrong. I remember when I realized something had changed between Tiffany and me. Tiffany and I had been married for 7 years at that point, and for most of our marriage, things felt steady. We weren't the most passionate couple in the world, but we had a rhythm. When I came home from long hauls, I could always count on her greeting me with a hug, a kiss, and at least some excitement that I was back. But then, something shifted. The first thing I noticed was that she stopped initiating anything intimate. Before, she would flirt, make little jokes, or even just pull me close while we were watching TV. But that stopped. At first, I thought maybe she was tired or stressed. I get it, life can be exhausting. But it wasn't just a bad week or a rough month. It became the new normal. If I didn't make the first move, nothing happened. And even when I did, it started to feel like she was just going through the motions, like she was doing it because she had to, not because she wanted to. Then there were the texts. When I was on the road, we used to text all the time. Just little things, asking how my trip was going. But suddenly, her responses became shorter and less frequent. I'd send a message, and hours would pass before I got a reply, if I got one at all. And when she did respond, it was often just a simple okay or yeah. No follow-up, no curiosity about my day. It was like she was slowly pulling away. At first, I told myself people get comfortable in relationships, right? But over time, I couldn't ignore the pattern. Our whole relationship had become one-sided. I was always the one reaching out, making plans, try to keep things going. If I didn't start a conversation, we didn't have one. If I didn't suggest spending time together, we just coexisted in the same space, like two distant roommates instead of a married couple. I kept hoping that things would bounce back. But months turned into years, and the distance between us only grew. I didn't want to admit to myself that I felt more alone in my marriage than I ever did when I was out on the road. One night, I was drained after a long shift on the road. Trucking isn't just a job, it's a lifestyle. Some days, I think I'll be home in the evening, and then a last-minute delivery comes in, paying just enough to make me say yes. That's exactly what had happened. I thought I'd be back in a day, but 2 days turned into 3. By the time I came home, all I wanted was a shower, a meal, and a good night's sleep. I didn't even bother texting Tiffany that I was coming home. She was used to my unpredictable schedule. As I stepped inside, I noticed the house was quiet, except for a faint voice coming from the back porch. Tiffany was on the phone. She could have been talking to her sister or one of her friends. I kicked off my boots and headed for the kitchen, grabbing a glass from the cabinet and filling it with water. I was so focused on cooling my throat that I barely registered the words at first. But as I walked toward the bedroom, where the porch was just a few feet away, I could hear her voice more clearly. I can't stand him anymore. I don't even know why I'm still here. I stopped mid-step. My brain scrambled to make sense of what I'd just heard. Was she talking about me? No, that couldn't be right. Or, then I heard her sigh. A pause. The person on the other end said something I couldn't make out. And then she spoke again, her voice clear as day. He's just too convenient. Leaving him would be too much work. I haven't loved him in years. I can't describe in words how I felt at this point. I had spent over a decade believing I had a partner. Someone who loved me, even if things weren't perfect. I had sacrificed sleep, time, and comfort to make sure we had a good life. And yet, in her own words, I was nothing more than an obligation. A convenience. Someone she couldn't even stand. I walked into the bedroom and made my way to the bed, sitting down on the edge and staring at the floor. My hands rested on my knees, but I wasn't really there. I was lost in thought. Had she been pretending this entire time? My mind ran through our years together, trying to spot the moment when everything shifted. Was I blind, or had she just been that good at faking it? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had no idea who I had been married to. I sat there, without knowing how long I stayed in that position. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. Time didn't feel real anymore. Then, the bedroom door creaked open. Tiffany stepped in, her eyes widening the moment she saw me before she forced a casual expression onto her face. "Oh, I didn't hear you come in," she said. She knew. Maybe she didn't know exactly how much I had heard, but she knew I had heard something. I didn't say a word. I just nodded because I didn't trust myself to speak. I had nothing to say that wouldn't either come out as broken or as pure rage. I watched as she hesitated, standing there like she wanted to say more. Without another glance in her direction, I pushed myself off the bed and mumbled something about taking a shower. I didn't wait for a response. I just walked straight into the bathroom, locked the door behind me, and turned on the water. I stood under the stream, letting the hot water pound against my skin, but it did nothing to loosen the tightness in my chest. I don't know how long I stayed in there. Could have been 10 minutes, could have been an hour. But when I finally stepped out, I didn't join her in the bedroom. I didn't want her attempts at small talk, or worse, her silence. So, I went to the living room, turned on the TV, and sat there, staring at the screen without really watching it. Normally, I'd come home with a story or two, something funny from the road, something weird I saw at a truck stop. I always had something to say. But tonight, I had nothing. And Tiffany? She didn't ask. By the time I finally went to bed, she was already asleep. I lay there all night, staring at the ceiling wondering. If this was how she truly felt, then what was I still doing here? By the time the first hint of morning light crept through the window, my decision was clear. I was just going to leave. I got up without making a sound, moving through the house like a ghost. I took only what mattered, a few personal things. Everything else? It didn't matter. I wasn't interested in taking things that tied me to this place any longer. I didn't leave a note. By the time I stepped out of the house and into the early morning air, I didn't know what was ahead, and honestly, I didn't care. I just knew that whatever came next, it had to be better than being with someone who stayed with me out of laziness. Tiffany wanted an easy life. Well, now she had it. I knew Tiffany wouldn't suspect anything right away. My job had always made me unpredictable. I could leave for a day and end up gone for a week if there were delays or last-minute deliveries. She was used to that. Normally, if I left while she was asleep, I'd send her a text in the morning or call her later in the day to check in. But this time, there was no reason to. Before leaving town, I made a stop at the bank and withdrew as much money as I could without raising suspicion. I took out my phone, removed the SIM card, and snapped it in half. That little piece of plastic was the only direct link she had to me, and now it was gone. No calls, no texts, no explanations. I knew she'd eventually try to track me down, but I also knew it wouldn't be easy. Truckers aren't like regular 9-to-5 workers. We don't stay in one place, and most of the people I worked with were just as hard to pin down. Even if she asked around, no one would be able to give her a straight answer. Maybe I had gone up north. Maybe I had switched companies. Maybe I was still on the road somewhere. It would be a dead end. With my phone dead and my ties cut, I drove until the highway stretched ahead of me. No destination in mind, just distance. I ended up in a small Texas town where people mind their business and don't ask too many questions. It was perfect. No one knew me. No one expected anything from me. I was just a man starting over. Over the next few months, I expected to feel some kind of regret or even guilt for walking away from my marriage the way I did. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I realized I didn't miss Tiffany. I understood that silence wasn't loneliness. It was peace. I picked up odd jobs, not because I needed to, but because I could. Some days, I worked at a local auto shop, helping fix up trucks like the ones I used to drive cross-country. Other days, I did yard work for old folks who paid in home-cooked meals instead of cash. It wasn't about the money. I had enough saved up to get by. It was about doing something for myself, something that didn't feel like a duty or an obligation. For once, I wasn't grinding away just to keep someone else comfortable. I was living on my own terms. And then, there were the people. Back in my old life, my only real social interaction was with other truckers at rest stops or whatever small talk Tiffany had the patience to entertain. But here, I made actual friends. Guys who didn't care where I came from, who didn't ask about my past unless I felt like sharing. We'd sit around after work, drinking cheap beer and having regular conversations about life, work, and the best spots to grab a burger in town. Simple things, but things I had been missing for so long without even realizing it. The best part? I had no obligations, no expectations, no one waiting for me to check in, no one counting the days until I got home. If I wanted to take a road trip, I did. If I wanted to sleep in, I did. Every single thing I did was because I wanted to, not because I had to. And that was a kind of freedom I had never known before. I never thought I'd hear from Tiffany again. After disappearing for a year, I had built a new life, one where I didn't wake up feeling like a burden in my own home. To this day, I still don't know how. Did she track down old trucking buddies, or she hired someone? Who knows? But one afternoon, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I answered out of habit, and the moment I heard her voice, my stomach tightened. "Sam, it's me." I didn't say anything at first. What was there to say? But she kept talking, her voice shaky, like she had been rehearsing this conversation 100 times. She told me she never meant what she said that night, that she was just venting, that she was frustrated and didn't know how to express it. She even had the nerve to say she still loved me. But I had spent an entire year replaying her words in my head, and I knew the truth. She hadn't been venting. She had been honest. She just never expected me to hear it. At first, I ignored her. I blocked her number without saying a word. But she didn't stop. She used different numbers, sending long, emotional texts. Messages filled with apologies, promises, regrets. She wrote about how empty the house felt without me, how she couldn't sleep at night, how she had made a terrible mistake. She even tried guilt-tripping me, saying I had hurt her by leaving, that I should have given her a chance to explain, that we could fix this. But there was nothing to fix. I saw through the desperation. She wasn't sorry for what she had said. She was sorry for the consequences. She thought I would always be there, no matter how little effort she put into our marriage. When I finally walked away, it wasn't love that made her chase after me. It was the realization that she had lost her safety net. Eventually, I gave her what she wanted, a response. But not the one she was hoping for. "I'll come back," I told her. "But not for you. I'm coming back to end the marriage officially." Silence. For the first time in all those messages, all those calls, she had nothing to say. And honestly, I didn't care. Looking back, I never thought I'd be the kind of man to just disappear. That wasn't the plan. When I left, I wasn't trying to vanish forever. I just wanted her to understand what it felt like to lose someone. I wanted her to wake up one day and realize that I wasn't just some convenient fixture in her life, like a piece of furniture she never noticed until it was gone. But the longer I stayed away, the more I realized something. I didn't miss her. Not even a little. And if I didn't miss her, what was the point of going back? I now see the signs were there all along. The way she stopped texting me when I was on the road. The way she only touched me if I was the one to initiate it. For years, I told myself it was just a rough patch, something all couples go through. But the truth? The truth was that I was just convenient for her. I paid the bills. I gave her stability. But love? That had died a long time ago. And I was too blind or too hopeful to see it. If there's one thing I've learned from this whole mess, it's that convenience is not love. Being tolerated is not the same as being cherished. If someone is only with you because leaving is too much work, then they are not your partner. They are just a person who happens to share your space. And if you ever get to a point where you feel like you have to beg for effort, you are already losing. Another thing? If someone doesn't value you, walk away. Don't argue. Don't explain. Just leave. If they cared, you wouldn't have to fight for their attention in the first place. And trust me, once you finally walk away, you'll realize how much peace you were missing. And the biggest lesson of all? Never ignore the warning signs. If you feel unwanted, you probably are. If you're constantly wondering if someone still loves you, you already have your answer. I saw the signs for years, and I ignored them because I wanted to believe in the version of her that I fell in love with. But that version was gone. And in the end, I had to accept the truth, no matter how much it hurt. So now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my place? Would you have stayed and confronted her? Would you have given her another chance? Or would you have left, just like I did? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this story worth listening to, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Someone out there might need to hear this.